On this episode of the Star Trek Universe podcast, we are talking about Absolute Candor, the fourth episode of Star Trek Picard. Right after this ad, we have absolutely no control over.
Welcome to the Star Trek Universe podcast. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Robertson.
What is up, David C. Robertson?
I don't know, man. I'm just, it's been quite a few days.
Yeah, it has. We haven't been
crazy
on the cast in a while, and it's been a really hard week. I mentioned it over on the MCU cast, and I'll mention it here too. My sister passed away this week. So we, through all of our podcasting and music writing and basically all of my schedule, obviously off kilter. It's a big deal. And everybody's been very gracious about it, that knew about it. And actually I just was talking to somebody on the MCU cast chat who said, "Where's the Star Trek cast?" And then he immediately commented, "I just listened to the MCU cast. Never mind. I feel like an ass clown." I was like, no, man, it's totally fine. I actually really appreciate the people who've been writing in and saying, like, where are the casts? Where are the casts? Because even though, obviously, I had to deal with important family stuff this week, it really meant a lot that the casts were missed. It really did. And we got people writing in about both casts a good bit. And so really, really appreciate you guys. So
that's good.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And it's just really good to be back here talking about silly science fiction shit. So thanks for letting us. Thanks for being a part of this, everybody. Really is it's a shelter in the storm, I guess, as it were. Something to get my mind off the things.
Yeah. So, and hey, if you were still just disappointed that we didn't have a Star Trek cast, just keep in mind that Matt's dad took time out from grieving to troll me for liking the original Enterprise.
That's true. At the funeral, he. So those of you on the podcast, we've got a little feedback this week, the last couple weeks, that people didn't like how Dave didn't like the fact that they changed the original Enterprise for this show, and those of you who wrote that in and thought it was like, whatever,
petty,
Dave
or whatever
got his comeuppance. Dave got his comeuppance. At a funeral, the grieving father gave him shit about it.
Yeah.
My dad is such an asshole.
He was like, you know what the best part was? How they changed the Enterprise.
He came up to him at the funeral and said, "Man, Dave, have you watched this new Picard? I am just loving it. I am absolutely loving it. I just think, you know what my favorite part was? I really love when they just that few seconds they showed of the original Enterprise and how they changed everything. They really modernized it. It really looked beautiful." Just trolling you at his daughter's funeral. That's my dad right there. That is real
really
weird. That is a great story. Oh man. Okay. So
yeah.
My family doesn't know how to grieve.
Whose does?
No one's. Absolutely no one's. It is incredibly difficult,
to be fair,
and incredibly hard to understand how to go through this kind of thing. But most families, there's like, I've been to a lot of funerals. I haven't been to a lot of funerals. That sounds weird. I've been to enough funerals to know that most of them are somber affairs. My family is just a raucous mess. I looked over at my girlfriend and was like, yeah, my family cannot be subdued even by death. Like the whole family was just like, I don't know, still just having, it was still a raucous affair somehow. I don't know. It was crazy. My family. Anyway. Yeah, you weren't there for that part, actually. It was before you got there. Yeah, during the visitation, everyone was, everyone was just like, I mean, they're telling stories from her life and stuff, but it was like a lot of laughter and stuff. And I was just like, I mean, it's good. I think it's kind of an amazing way to have a funeral, but like, it's still just the people who were coming in from outside who were like fresh to the scene were coming into like a room full of laughter. Next to the casket, and it just seemed really inappropriate. But it was the family of the girl who's passed, so it's like you can't say they're being inappropriate. It's her mother and brothers and father, and her daughters were even. I don't know. It's very strange. I joke that my family doesn't know how to grieve, but it's probably true.
When it's my time, when I go, that's how I hope it happens. That's how I hope everyone responds, because my family has the exact opposite response, where it's just like, you are not allowed to laugh, and if you are laughing, you're being disrespectful, and then we are going to go back home and fight, because life is short, and I don't know, be depressed and ridiculous for months on end. And it's just like, I hate that so much.
Yeah, it's tough. I know we're spending way too much time talking about this. I appreciate y'all's patience. We'll get into Star Trek in a second. But real shit happening this week. But yeah, it's an interesting thing going through this, because I posted it to Facebook and everything, so a lot of my friends knew, so people were seeing me. But I'm such a my dad's a pastor, and we live this sort of pastor's family life where we're real happy-go-lucky crew. Like, and even through hard times, we tend to just be like really boisterous and try to put on a brave face and a happy face on everything. And healthy or not, I'm not sure, but it's interesting because that's just my default. And a lot of times someone comes up to me, and it's not an act, it's just who I am. Someone will be like, "How you doing, Matt?" And I'm like, "I am doing good. How are you?" And like, then I remember that, I should be somber right now, but I don't want to put on a fake somber for this person. But like, and then when I think about it, obviously I'm very sad, and I've had my moments of breakdown for sure. But like, my default setting is just not, I don't know, not to focus on the negative. Even in a situation like this, it seems my family, like I said, we deal strangely with all this stuff. But yeah. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's move on to some Star Trek talk. That's why we're here, and I can use it. So let's talk about this episode. Yeah. Absolute Candor.
It was written by Michael Chabon and directed by Jonathan Frakes.
Oh, nice. I did not know that it was directed by Jonathan Frakes. I did not know either of those facts. That's awesome.
Yeah, I chose to interrupt you to tell you that because the last time we had an episode that was directed by Jonathan Frakes that I remembered about, you were disappointed that I didn't tell you about it.
Oh, well, yeah. Thank you for telling me about it. Yeah. Love it. I really, really enjoyed this episode a lot. Frakes is a great director. He really is. And I was wondering how he would how he'd do with the modern age of Trek. And I think this episode's really, really, really well done.
I am not 100% sure. Like, I'm glad I didn't realize it until afterward, because I think I would have been expecting a lot more and would have liked the episode less.
Huh. Interesting.
Because I generally have pretty high expectations for a Jonathan Frakes directed thing.
Sure.
And this was a pretty slow moving episode at times. It was
well, he has directed some of the most action-packed Trek there has been. Yeah. So I can see that expectation put on him, but I imagine they gave him the script and he had to make with it what he did, and the action that is in this episode is amazing. Full spoiler alert for this episode. When Elnor steps onto the battlefield, just smooth as hell. He's just like, choose to live. And then the guy tries to attack him. He cuts off his head and says, "I regret your choice." That is some baller stuff, man. They are building the Kawat Malet. I'm bad at saying the name. The warrior Romulan warrior nuns. The only male of the raised by Romulan warrior nuns. I really like his character. It's just layer upon layer upon layer. Someone posted a meme that was like samurai. What was it? Samurai elf assassin. Yes, please. like talking about, and then something about how sexy he was.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. This is, they stacked like everything. And you know what I'm most excited about? I say all that to say it's just a cool character. Total. I feel like as a fan of a thing, or if I was a child, I would love that character. You know what I mean? Well, like they introduced him as a child. I feel like he is archetypally exactly what kind of Star Trek needs to rope in sort of younger fans and stuff, which I love. But also, I really love the idea of absolute candor. It reminds me of sort of the reverse of Spock. You know what I mean? Like, as soon as they said it, I was like, this is almost like a complete reject. They said it's a complete rejection of Romulan values of secrecy. But when they said they immediately say all of their emotions, that immediately made me think it's kind of a rejection of the Vulcan philosophy as well. The fact that they're embracing their emotions to the point that they immediately spew them out, you know?
Yeah, I thought about that too. And I thought it was really neat. The idea, I felt like it was like the invention of lying, but for Romulans.
Oh yeah, that's so funny. I literally watched that movie 3 days ago.
It's a great movie.
It is a really good movie.
By the way, I'm pissed off because I meant to like reach you on the podcast by saying Jolan True.
Oh,
and I completely forgot.
What does Jolan True mean? I looked it up the other day.
Yeah, that's what they say.
I know.
What they say to the Romulans.
It's something pretty. I mean, you know, Jolan True means.
I knew back in my old days when I was young, and
may your day be filled with peace. That's what it means.
Oh, well, that's nice.
That is nice.
That is nice.
Yeah, for sure. In all my exploration of various philosophy and stuff in the last couple of years, trying to sort of revisit some of my own preconceptions and things I was raised in and everything. The phrase peace, just peace, the hippie phrase peace, actually like took on a lot of meaning for me, because in many ways I think that's what we're seeking as human beings with other human beings. We're just seeking to live with peace with others. So that Jolan True, that actually does mean a lot to me. That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
I end almost every podcast with peace, and it actually is intentional and meaningful, not just my sign off kind of thing. Maybe
for this show, we should, I'll still say live long and prosper. You say Jolan True.
Yeah. Instead of peace. I dig it. Double the Star Trek catchphrases. I'm down.
That's right. One Romulan, one Vulcan.
Yeah. This episode just does a lot of world building, and I really appreciate it, because we obviously had a lot going on sort of expositionally with the last few episodes, with like letting us know why synths are banned and who and what happened with Bruce Maddox and all that stuff. That all kind of built in the last three, and kind of building the crew and getting them on a ship and all that stuff. But this was like a really small story compared to what they've done with the last three, I felt like. With just, it's really just about picking up Elnor. I almost called him Elron, which is an elf in Lord of the Rings. Picking up Elnor, but
Scientology guy.
Yeah, that Elrond. That's Elrond, I think. Right? I don't know.
Oh,
no, it's Elrond. So. You're right. Maybe it's Elrond is the
period Ron Hubbard.
Maybe Elrond is the elf. I don't know the difference between the Scientology guy and the elf. The truth is,
I don't know from Lord of the Rings.
This episode's a very small story, with just picking up Elnor. That's the whole deal. Is telling Elnor's story. That's what this episode's about. But they fit in a lot about, they kind of explain what the Fenris Rangers are. They don't fully explain it, but they say that like Fenris Ranger territory, and it's a little bit based on some stuff we've heard in the sort of production talk and stuff. We know the Fenris Rangers are sort of picking up where the Federation left off, or something like that, or defending areas the Federation has sort of abandoned. And so I'm assuming what we're supposed to believe here is that the Federation has shrunk in size in some manner. When it may not have shrunk in size, like actually had planets leave, but it has stopped going out into the world and helping people like it used to. We know that with the Romulans, but it seems like with the Fenris Rangers are like defending this area. And the fact that they said it's Fenris Ranger territory, it seemed like just a different type of thing to have. And the fact that they talked about power vacuum, I just assume that's because the Federation left there.
Yeah, man.
So that's cool world building. I'm loving it.
Yeah, I feel like I felt like basically this episode was like a backdoor pilot setting up another backdoor pilot. Because I was like, this feels like it's like this is the backdoor pilot for Star Trek La Sirena. And then they were mentioning Fenris Rangers, which was going to be a new show.
Wait, Star Trek Glass Arena, who's that?
It's the ship. It's Rios' ship.
Oh. That's the name of it? Glass Arena? How do you say it? Sorry.
La Sirena.
La Sirena. Okay.
La Sirena.
I have seen that written.
Yeah.
That I didn't catch in the episode. No, I love that he has So last episode we saw the holograms, and I think we just saw the medical hologram last episode. This episode we got at least two more.
Yeah, we've got the pilot. We've got he's
a tactical officer.
Yeah, the guy that we thought was the medical hologram was the the emergency hospitality hologram.
No,
or something.
I think that was two different holograms.
Was it?
I thought so. Now I may be wrong. They did look pretty similar, but I took that as because yesterday he calls him the EMH, so I assumed that was medical.
But there was also the EAH or EHH.
Yeah, that was the one we met this episode. And okay. I thought that was really funny because he doesn't seem to hate the EMH. He gets annoyed at the EMH, but he hates the EHH. And then the ETH, and I guess the emergency tactical hologram, seems like kind of his type of guy. Like he's either programmed and he's like, I don't know, he's speaking Spanish and he's like, was he smoking a cigar or am I just imagining that?
I think you're imagining that part. But maybe not. He
just looked like all disheveled, and I loved that he like threw his 2 cents in the ring when they were talking about whether they should. Well, he is the tactical officer. It makes sense. They were like, should we beam this person over? And he says, nah, too risky. It's so good, man. So good.
Yeah, I'm having trouble though differentiating between the different holograms on his ship.
Well, I feel like the ETH is pretty clear, and the EMH.
He's clear.
The EMH, I'm pretty sure that EMH is who we met last episode, and then I think the EHH just disappears anytime he walks into the room. So I don't think that's who we saw last episode. He didn't even say anything. He just walks in the room and the hologram raised his hands and disappeared. I hate that hospitality hologram. Yeah, so that's some more world building. We knew about the EMH, but we didn't know that he apparently has an entire crew of holograms that have different personalities and looks. All played by himself for some reason, which is not a thing that at least the EMH of old had anything to do with. So that's hilarious. I just love it. I freaking love it, man. The world building in this episode is amazing. All
of that, like the question of why all of the different holographic crew members look like him, plus the fact that Girardi came in and asked about why there was nothing but Klingon opera, and he was like, it's a long story. I'm like, dude, you guys are just setting up another show.
See, that's funny. I didn't get that at all. I just think they're putting a lot into this show. Because I think I think he's the pilot. He's the pilot. He's the helmsman, man. Eventually we're going to get to a place where we're going to get that serenity moment where they all have to come together for a cause, and it's not just a disparate crew that's sort of brought together by money. and they're going to come together for a cause. And I think he's going to be the helmsman. They're going to let Picard actually be the captain, because this whole dance that they're doing where Picard gives a command and then he looks at him to go, "Is that okay?" That's not going to last forever.
Yeah. You know what is interesting, that pretty much his whole crew is holograms, and they had not previously really marketed the idea that this was going to be about synthetic life in as far as holograms are concerned. We know that there's a hologram on Earth that was in charge of that database, but it is absolutely synthetic life. And having a ship full of holograms might very well play into the end game for this season. With synthetic life,
the demons that will cast off their chains.
Question, yeah. The demons casting off their chains, being
for
synthetic
sure.
life.
So Soji is doing something where she can call forth the demons, and I'm assuming that's the synths that are out there chained up and being controlled by their programming, and call them to life. So excited to see what happens with that.
Man, when we find Bruce Maddox, he better be, and not better. I'm not that entitled, but it would be awesome if he was with Dr. Zimmerman.
Oh, that would be rad. That would be real rad. Oh.
Any chance to see Robert Picardo again? Anyway.
Oh man, can you imagine? Can you imagine if the Doctor has fully gone? Who's Robert Zimmerman? That's the Doctor's programmer, right?
That was...
No, see, I think he should be with the Doctor. Because the Doctor wrote that holo novel, Photons Be Free. And it showed it being passed around by holograms back on Earth, or in a mining colony or something. And I think that there are seeds placed there that could easily be the Doctor... The Doctor actually, maybe when synthetic life was banned, they were like, okay, synthetic life is banned. Actual physical robots are banned completely, but holograms, since we have control of them and we can keep them confined to areas with holographic emitters, we'll continue to use that. But what if the restrictions, the new restricted nature that they're utilizing with holographic life, causes the Doctor to really go rogue himself, and he is working with Maddox? I would absolutely be really cool. Love that, because it would be if the Doctor showed up in episode 7 or whatever as the big bad of season 1, I would flip. My mind would just be blown, just absolutely blown.
That would be so great, and that would give another reason for 7 of 9 to be around, just because she would be one of the only people who could actually get through to him.
7 of 9 is not just someone from his ship, but she's someone he was very infatuated with. If suddenly he spent the last 14 years feeling betrayed by the Federation, because he's probably been walking around with his hollow whatever the what's it called? What do they call it? His badge that allows him to walk everywhere. His mobile emitter. That's it. He's been walking around with his mobile emitter ever since Voyager, thinking he's an autonomous being, and then suddenly they take it away and make him be confined to an area. Again, it would be so good. We're writing a great show right now. I want.
You're writing a great show right now. I'm just going, This
is my favorite. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to have new Star Trek, man. I'm just so happy. The fact that we can realistically discuss what if the Doctor has gone rogue, and it's a realistic possibility in a show we are currently watching, and we are going to know in the next 7 episodes if that's actually true. That's, even if that's a far-fetched idea, it is so much fun to just have these discussions. It's why I do podcasting, just having this kind of discussion. I just freaking love it, man. I love that we have new Star Trek.
If that's the case, I hope we get a few Andy Dick cameos.
Me too. That would be wonderful.
I really enjoyed I really liked his like EMH version
Mark
2
or something like that. Yeah, that was really great. And all the other EMHs, all the Mark 1s were in the mining colonies. So sad. It's so sad. And we know their potential. Yeah, but can you imagine? Because one of the things that I always say, I hate a mustache twirling villain. And that would be the epitome of like a villain that we can totally understand why he's doing what he's doing. And when we see him, when we finally have the real destroyer revealed to us, it's a face that we know and love. Like, that would be so amazing. Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's a fun theory.
Now I totally want Bruce Maddox to basically become the Carl Rossum of Star Trek.
Oh, like from
Carl Rossum from Batman, the animated series, the guy that created the Hardak androids who pretended to be humans.
All right.
The duplicates.
Cool. I don't remember that episode of the animated series.
It's great. It's such a great episode. That's awesome. It's so weird.
Can I just say this episode was visually stunning?
You can.
I think it's beautiful. Both on the ship, everything on the ship, and finally getting a sense of the ship and seeing it at warp from inside the cockpit. It's really beautiful. And the doctor, oh gosh, you'll know her name. The doctor, the blonde lady.
Girardi,
thank you.
Girardi, yeah. Agnes Girardi, yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Girardi is just so much fun. And so I really liked her being bored with space. I also thought it was strange. I guess I always got the feeling in Star Trek that space was a thing everybody could do. And maybe it's because the new paradigm in the Federation seem to have somehow, with Raffi's discussion of how she lives in a trailer and he lives in a mansion. And then, of course, with this episode, there's a lot of scarcity. I guess we're no longer a post-scarcity society. Something has... Maybe it's just because the Federation has retreated into itself. I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, there was always some form of currency.
Sure.
In play. Like, even in the original series, they reprimanded Spock for putting himself in danger because do you know how much the Federation or the Starfleet, how much it costs Starfleet to train you, or how much you're worth to Starfleet, or something like that? And Spock starts to give a number.
Right.
And
there's also all the mud episodes and like various people in the show that seem to be operating still in a
people just outside of the Federation, right. Though. Like, but a lot of they always want to say like, oh well, Kirk says they don't have money. Picard says we don't, we don't strive for material wealth, and that might be true. But at the same time, there's clearly, when you look at like stuff that like Sisko's dad talks about, how they used up a certain amount of, he used up all their transporter rations coming home because he was homesick. There's something there. There's something going on. Everyone might have a living wage, whatever that might be determined to be.
Right. And so Raffi,
per the government.
Yeah, it's some sort of social safety net that's making sure no one's starving, at least within the Federation. But obviously on this planet that they're on in this episode tonight, that's outside of that. And
well, yeah, obviously this is outside. These are like abandoned Romulans.
Yes, and they talk about the racial strife, and he throws down the Romulan only sign. I thought that was an interesting moment. I also thought it was an interesting moment, particularly to have a black Romulan, and this is purely through our cultural context, but that is very much the black man sitting down at the white soda counter or whatever in the 50s. is very much that moment, and it was kind of funny to. I almost felt like it was weird that old white man walked into this situation, and then a black man was the one getting up in his grill. Of course,
I think that was purposeful.
Yeah. I can't imagine they didn't think about it. I don't know. Yeah, it's just interesting from our cultural context looking at this. But oh man, I love it. I really loved it. I said it in the past that I was really worried about the sword fighting scene. Mm-hmm. And I
thought it was great.
It was perfect. It was perfect. It's just in the trailer they made it look like Picard was going to sword fight, and that's not what happened. Picard parried once and then dropped the sword.
Yeah, and I thought that was great.
Me too. Yeah, loved it. Love everything about this episode.
I don't love everything about the episode. I feel like there were some budgetary restrictions maybe, or just, if not that, then just questionable editing, because they did a thing where it was like, oh, they got that old bird of prey is coming to us, and then like they're doing evasive maneuvers and they just kind of keep showing like different shots of the bridge, and I'm like, yeah, but where's the... All right, well, they're clearly being fired upon. They're just not showing that ship. I don't know. It felt a little weird to me. It wasn't a big deal. I enjoyed seeing that old bird of prey. I've got a bunch of birds of prey laying around my house, so I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see a way you'd want to see more of that, but I do think that scene was paced fairly well, and I think they were probably they're probably trying to balance. Yes, obviously monetary concerns is one thing, but they're also trying to balance character development and showing the new characters. Like, this is the scene where we get the introduction of the new ETH or whatever. Like, and I really enjoyed him, and and really getting a chance to see Rios's piloting skills in action. And then he says, whoever that pilot is amazing. And it's 7 of 9, which is awesome.
Yeah, I liked a lot of what they had to say here. I loved that they, accused Picard of, that Elnor was like, you couldn't save everyone, so you decided to choose no one, or to save no one.
I think the lady says that to him. And he says, I chose to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Great line.
Yes, that is so good. So good. Were you surprised, or were you surprised at all that it was 7 of 9 piloting that ship, or did you expect it?
You know what? The first time I watched this, I actually got confused. So the first time I watched this, I was a little distracted, and I did not expect it at all. But the second time, obviously, I knew, so I can't really even gauge whether I would have thought it was. But the second time, after knowing that she's a member of the Fenris Rangers, and that's a thing, the reason it is surprising is because the episode, it seems like she's meeting Picard in the show, seemed like a totally different thing. But I guess that's next episode. That's probably her sitting at his desk in his holographic mansion.
Yeah.
So.
I'm down, man. Let's do a show. Annika Hansen and the Fenris Rangers.
Oh, dude. Totally in. I am 100% in for a Fenris Rangers show. It sounds like the Fenris Rangers are doing the thing that it sounds like they're doing what Picard should have done 14 years ago.
Trying to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, no, I mean, the Federation was going to leave. Somebody had to try to fill that power vacuum. And so... Picard decided to go home and pout. And you know what? The only thing I don't like about this show, and I think it's being done better than most of the other versions of this, but every time they make the old man coming back into the fight, or the old man returning to a role that he played as a younger man, every freaking time they do it that he left for a long time. And Batman, Batman did that like whole 5 or 7 year gap in Rises.
Yeah. It was 8. It was 8 years.
And then even with Justice League Batman v Superman, it's like Batman didn't necessarily leave being Batman, but he like stopped being the kind of Batman he knew he should be, or whatever. He's the whole branding thing. And then you got what's some other examples of this? I've thought about it this week, and there's like a lot of Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker's another one. Luke Skywalker returns to the role after 30, 40 years or whatever, and he's the guy who went and sat on an island for a long time. And I'm kind of tired of that trope. I wish they would have. I'm liking this storyline, so I'm not upset at it, but I kind of like imagining the many storylines he could have had over the last 30 years. Instead, he sat on Earth in his mansion,
Well, it wasn't.
It was
30
14,
years.
yeah,
It was 14. But yeah, I like the idea that, because that's what old people do a lot of times. They like do their thing until it changes, and then they get mad that it changed, and they're like, it's no longer the thing I loved, and they move away from it and just do nothing and sulk for, like, I've seen it in my life. Like, people I know and love have done this.
Sure.
So I think it's a trope for a reason. There's something relatable about it. It doesn't really quite feel like his character, but then again, it's also a different version of the guy. Like, he went through shit that we didn't see, and where we left him in Nemesis, he had just gone through some pretty harrowing things, losing Data.
In many ways, losing
pretty much
his conception of himself because of his view of Shinzon. Seeing
that's
himself,
right, his view of Shinzon,
seeing himself going down a totally different road, and knowing that like that could have been him.
You go through that. You go through Data's death. All of a sudden, like, Beverly accepts a head of Starfleet medical position. Riker and Troy go off to the Titan. He loses pretty much almost his entire family in one fell swoop. And then on top of that, he loses the thing he's been believing in for his entire adult life.
Yeah.
This Starfleet chooses to let millions of people die.
Yeah, well, I think that the thing is, so he still seems, to me, he seems like he continued up until that 14-year point. It seems like he continued just because of this episode's the first glimpse we've gotten at this. But when he visits, what's the planet? Vashti? Yeah, Vashti. Yeah. When he visits Vashti and he meets Elnor as a child, it still seems like he's the same old Picard. I loved the quote about he doesn't care for family, or he doesn't care for children, and then that's why he's like, they get in the way of pleasure and duty alike. Oh, it's so good. But in that moment, he is more caring with Elnor than we've ever seen him with any other child, and that's part of his arc on Next Generation, is learning to open up to people in general, and learning to open up with children. And children were always something that made him uncomfortable. So even after Nemesis, it seems that he continued that arc towards more openness and more trying to be caring to people he doesn't even fully understand, but especially children. But it seems like when the Federation betrayed so many people, it seems like everything he'd spent his life to do feels, meaningless, and that's when he retreated into himself and retreated back into his chateau.
That's right. I think that was the breaking point.
Yeah, for sure.
And
absolutely.
It was just, I think it's been done well. And
I agree.
I don't necessarily mind the trope. Just depends. Like, when you look at and because most of my examples come from either Batman or Star Trek, Dark Knight Returns. Like, Batman stops being Batman, not because, a lady he liked got killed in Dark Knight Rises, but because the freaking government outlaws vigilantes. And when he and Oliver Queen decide to rise up against that, Superman flipping tore Oliver Queen's arm off.
Damn.
Yeah. So, good time to stop.
Yeah. Indeed.
So like but of course he comes back because he's got a psychological disorder. But yeah, I dig it. I dig what they're doing with Picard right now, and I like that he regrets quitting.
I do too. I like that I like that everyone he meets calls him out for that too.
Yeah. Dude, I almost cried, though, when he said that he might not make it back this way again.
Oh, I loved that. I loved that line.
Oh. I sat there and got all, like, bleary.
Again. Yeah. Whew. He's just realizing he's on his farewell tour of space, you know? Mm-hmm. Whew. It's real good, man.
Yeah. Weren't you saying something earlier, though? I think I got off, or what we got off topic or went down a different road, but I think you were talking about like people, how space just wasn't readily available to anyone.
Oh, right. It seemed that way to me on most shows. That, I mean, you know, you even talked about his father using up his. You talk about Sisko's father using up his rations for transporters. Like, it seems like that's still a thing people did regularly in the Federation, was travel around space. But this seems to be Girardi's first time off-world, or at least first time in space. I guess she could have beamed to another close planet, or depending on how beaming technology is working these days, that could have beamed her far away. But it seems like this is her first time, at least in prolonged space travel.
Yeah, there does seem to be there seems to be a good opportunity for the writers to jump on commentary about our modern day. Like, if you could, and I don't know if this is true, I don't have any idea what the numbers are. I would love to look and see what the travel rates are, like how many, like if overall travel has gone down because more people on Earth have access to the internet and can just see what they're not able to go check out.
Interesting.
But I would love to see that. But you know, if you want to go back and into Star Trek lore, I mean, I just watched Search for Spock. I watched Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock back to back the other night, and McCoy goes to a bar to charter a space flight to Genesis. He didn't realize it was forbidden. Or no, he did actually know. But he was telling the alien, you know, price you name. Or yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So
no, there's definitely conflicting kind of like information about money, and there's moments where they talk about money, and there's moments where they say it doesn't exist, and it always has seemed like the post-scarcity idea, which I guess post-scarcity and wealth are two different things. Right.
The First Contact just said that, you know, within 50 years of First Contact, hunger and disease would be mostly things of the past. I didn't say you were going to be wealthy.
True.
And then Picard also in First Contact said that people strive for self-betterment, not necessarily material wealth. But, you know, that's just Picard being the hopeful, you know, doddering fool that he is.
Right. Well, just before we go too far down another rabbit hole, the other thing that I was talking about with the space travel is in episode 1, which I don't think we mentioned this on the cast. I think we talked about it a little off cast. Okay. No, it's episode 2. The two Tal Shiar agents that are working with him, they figure out that Soji is off-world, and Picard gets a look on his face like off-world is a really hard thing to achieve. Yeah. And then it does take him to another like episode and a half before he finally gets on a ship. And at first he tries with the Federation, and then when he can't, he spends his life savings probably to get Rios. So yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, I'm guessing what we're supposed to believe is that space or like there's no scarcity. Everybody has what they need, which probably prevents a lot of war, because a lot of war is caused by people that don't have their basic necessities that are willing to fight for them. Which is what they're not giving the synths right now, which is what I find interesting. But it probably gets rid of war. It probably gets rid of a lot of the real strife in all the planets. But it's still there are the haves and have-nots, which is interesting. I'm glad that's sort of that picture is sort of coming into focus for me. That maybe they're post scarcity, but they're not post the 1%, I guess.
Right. Well, and also that look that Picard had, to be fair, I'm pretty sure I get that look when I try to buy something on Amazon and realize my wallet's in the other room.
Right. Sure.
I can't imagine being like 90 something years old and realizing I have to leave Earth.
Yeah. And I get it. He thought for a second that it was going to be just like his search parameters were small. He's thinking, well, Daj was on Earth. Soji's probably here too. I just need to find Soji. And then suddenly he realizes she's off world and I have no idea where. So that's a big deal.
Yeah. Once you're like, oh, she's off world. Son of a bitch. There's no telling where she's at.
Right. If it had proven she was on Earth, it would have been a small search probably, and not nearly as harrowing, and not have to put a crew together and not all this stuff. So anyway, what do you any other big things you got to say about this episode?
I don't think so. We do have a little bit of feedback.
Oh yeah, man, might spur on some things. What we got?
All right, in reference to a previous episode, Jonathan Jenkins. I can't say that name. I'm sorry, buddy. Says, you considered whether Commodore O is a secret Romulan, but what if the sunglasses are a clue? What if she is a mirror universe evil Vulcan?
I love that.
I think that's probable now.
I really love that. I don't know if it's probable, and I know that. Oh gosh, Shiaban did a AMA or something where he talked about the sunglasses, but I have not had a chance to read that article yet. So I don't even know. I don't know what he said, and even if he did say something other than that, it could be a mislead. So we're not, because maybe too many people are calling it or something. But yeah, I think that's totally a good call. That's a really good possibility. I personally don't think she's a secret Romulan. I think she's a Vulcan. I think we may have talked about it on the last cast or something, or maybe we talked about it off cast. I don't know anymore. But I think she's a Vulcan who, for whatever reason, her logic led her to support this Romulan cabal. And it's possible that the Romulans, showed her whatever evidence they have that the destroyer is a thing, and it's going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. And she's willing to also try to stop the destruction of all life by the Doctor. Please be the Doctor. Please be the Doctor. Oh,
from your lips to the great bird of the galaxy.
Yeah.
Matthew Westfox, our buddy over at Superhero Ethics, says, I love you guys, but you missed the boat with Rios. He's moody, cynical, has a past that broke him, and he needs Patrick Stewart to inspire him to be better, even while he grumbles about it. He's handsome with black stubble and spends a lot of his first scene with his shirt off. He even smokes a damn cigar. He is not Mal. He is 100% Wolverine.
I think that is a good call. Good call on all points. That is a lot of Wolverine similarities. Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, if you haven't heard of Superhero Ethics, I was just on an episode 2 or 3 weeks ago. We did an episode about Picard and talked about Star Trek ethical issues. So Superhero Ethics is the name of the podcast, and my episode was the ethics of Star Trek, I think, or ethics of Picard. I'm not even sure. But so yeah, if you like this sort of thing, go check out Superhero Ethics. They're also a Stranded Panda podcast.
Awesome. All right. So Dylan Diggs writes in. This is about episode 4. So he says, hey guys, I just jumped off episode 4 and I wanted to write in. This episode brought up an interesting theme that I wanted to discuss a bit. My career is in international development. With my history, this episode rang as a relevant condemnation of a trend among many in the foreign policy community. One struggle we always have in this line of work is well-meaning Americans coming in as self-proclaimed heroes to try to help a, quote, struggling community. Oftentimes, this diagnosis is correct. Many of these communities are in need, just as the Romulans were. But we don't need to go back far in history to see American policy helicoptering in with some poorly designed invention and then leaving these communities disrupted, institutions shattered, and generations lost. In this episode, Picard went through much of the same struggles we encounter as a foreign policy, and I have seen at an individual and organizational level as well. Matt has said it before, the Federation is often an analog for the U.S. or the Western/First World Alliance. It doesn't take a strong imagination to see many of the connections to U.S. foreign policy, the UN, World Bank, IMF, etc. The captains and crew often are depicted as coming in with the bravado and swagger that is connected with that as well. Just like Picard, they aren't always wrong, but they sometimes are. And most importantly, the approach can be problematic. This episode brought back memories of the episode where Trip, on one of the first away missions in the underrated Enterprise, yelled at a son who seemed to be struggling to breathe from mistreatment from his mother, but T'Pol told him she was weaning him and that humans needed to understand context better. Or the episode where Quark makes that fantastic speech about the arrogance and limitations of the Federation. The Federation faces some of these same challenges still, so do we. On this note, I think this episode shed an interesting light on the complexity and often contradictions of our national character. I'm hopeful that in the next few episodes we can explore this further, rather than Romulan conspiracies. P.S. Jonathan Frakes killing it again as director. Bravo. P.P.S. Lore has to be around somewhere, right?
On his first point, I'm totally on board with Dylan here. Thanks for writing in, Dylan. Yeah, I'm totally on board. I think that all of those are great points. And just this is colonialism. It's just basic colonialism, no matter who's doing it. And I'm glad that Star Trek is continuing to ask those questions. But it's interesting to me because I think this is asking these questions in a very similar light to where we are now as a country. Because our country for a long time, and we have two political parties in this country, and for a long time both were very on board with sort of a globalism idea. And both have been pushing us for more trade and more partnerships around the world. And we have now shifted in this country to just like the Federation has in this moment in Picard, we have shifted to a more protectionist nature, at least in some quarters. And I think this is trying to ask those same colonialism and versus globalization and all these questions are being asked, but it's in the light of similar situations to what we find ourselves in our country. And I love Dylan Diggs's points, and all of them are well made. But yeah, I think that we're absolutely going to see more of this, more of these kinds of corollaries happening.
Yeah.
On his point about lore, though, I've been thinking a lot about lore because I still don't understand. So they have this conversation in the first episode with Jurati. Picard has a conversation with Jurati about taking one of Data's neurons could be used to create two of these beings, right?
Uh-huh.
But I still don't understand where they got Data's neurons.
Well, Data was, as she pointed out in the episode, Data was had become friends with, and I can't remember his name.
Bruce Maddox.
So she did point out that and we saw in subsequent episodes that he was actually corresponding with them, and they were, working together in some capacity. So that he could have done anything.
I don't understand even if he's corresponding, I guess Data can deal without a few neurons. I guess that's not a problem, but yeah, that could be. But my theory goes, and he's asking about lore here, and my theory is, what if this whole thing is because, and the Destroyer, and so what if we find out that Daj and Soji were not creations that were based on Data, but they are creations based on lore? And we find out in the last few episodes of this that they are the Destroyer, and this was all kind of a lore, in Laura's consciousness is what's driving their activated abilities, you know?
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Just a thought. And the really cool thing about that is, what if that's the case, Laura's a narcissist, I think. Laura's very much he's selfish and he's about himself. And he's very jealous of his brother. And what I would love to see is when Soji becomes activated or whatnot, and she finds out what happened on this ship and whatever she's trying to do, it's all to try to reactivate Lore in some way. And in the last episode, we actually get Lore in probably a better fashion than we've ever seen him, coming in and like being the enemy for Picard to face at the end. That could be really fun, especially if they did the CGI well and it's like young Data again.
Yes. What would be cool if they sort of retconned before, and if we found out that at the end of Descent, Data deactivated Lore and sent him to Bruce Maddox to be studied.
Ooh, I like that. And
maybe Bruce Maddox completely lobotomized Lore.
Yeah, absolutely.
And possible. That was before
I gotcha.
that we saw in Nemesis, like someone stole him or whatever. But perhaps Lore's consciousness like exists in a computer somewhere, and I don't know.
Well, they said that Data's consciousness would be in a fashion restore, or like it still exists within Daj and Soji. So like. At least based on that first conversation, we're supposed to believe that if they were made from Data's neurons, they would have his consciousness in them. So not just running on a computer somewhere, but like this weird alternate personality that can be activated within them. That could be Lore. The guy, the one that gets activated and kills all those Romulans, and that could be like a Lore controlled consciousness.
Absolutely.
I think that's a fun idea. It's a really fun idea. Lore teaming up with the Doctor, man. That's what we need.
Dude, okay. Hold on.
Yeah. What you got?
Hold on. All right. So what if what I had said was true? All right. And all of that happened. Lore's consciousness wound up on a computer bank somewhere and has now spread. What if it's in these daughters? But B4 also had Data's entire brain uploaded. So what if like Data and Lore are like their consciousnesses are fighting each other within these androids? I don't know. There's a lot of places they could go with it.
They absolutely could. Yeah, like their consciousnesses without a body are out in the universe somewhere battling, and they're going to be sent back in time and become control.
Chanzo82 on Twitter says, how gutted are you guys going to be when Allison Pill does her heel turn? I'm a terrible liar. Yeah, right. Sure you are.
I'm going to be so gutted because even you saying that and me knowing that intellectually that it's totally possible.
Oh yeah.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Even with your warning, I can't believe it.
I responded with a GIF that said that love is unconditional. I'll be happy because I knew I didn't want it to be true because I love Allison Pill.
I mean, we don't know what the last 2 seasons of this show are going to be, or the next 2 seasons they're planning are going to be, but it seems like this is the season that's about this particular thing. Daj and Soji and possible Data's daughters or Lore's daughters, or the synth rebellion and all this stuff. That's what this season is about. I can't imagine that's going to be all 3 seasons. I feel like next season will probably be something different. But she is a cybernetics expert, so it makes sense to me that if she's the cybernetics expert, she's here for this mission, and that's why they need her, and it could be different. Like they may not need her next season on the crew, and if they don't, they could either kill her off, which would be very sad, or have her do a heel turn, which might be sadder.
Yeah, I don't foresee her having a place on the La Serena spinoff that hasn't been announced, but I'm certain it's happening. So I think it'll probably be a heel turn. Honestly, I really do. I hope not, but I think it will be. Yeah,
she did give the information to Commodore O.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it was because it just felt too important, so I told her. But that's just that's the thing about a lie, man. It's a little bit of the truth. A little bit of the truth.
Yeah. Sarah Taylor tells us that she loves the comparison to Firefly. She said she had the same reaction upon seeing the initial trailer.
Yeah, I definitely have been thinking that. But the thing that I'm finding interesting is they have these roles that are Firefly-like, but they are very different people so far, at least emotionally, and they're on a very different journey. As much as the Firefly people were broken in their own ways, they also had a certain... Each one of them had their strengths, and they kind of knew who they were. I feel like all of these characters that are joining this crew all have a journey to go on, which I find really cool. I find you get into Firefly, Wash is Wash. He's Wash till the end. I mean, he grows, he changes a bit, but it's more like he just goes through things. I don't feel like he... at his core change. Now, we only got one season.
Right.
Jane is probably the one that has the most growth of the entire crew. But most of them are pretty much who they are. And of course, Mal has his turn back to who he was at the beginning, sort of. But this show, everyone entering, I can tell they have a journey to go on. Elnor... needs to find his place in the world. He feels very unsure. He feels very unloved by Picard. He's the only male father figure he ever had,
Mm-hmm.
And that's that. So Alison Pill's character, Girardi, seems just to be very naive, be out in the world. She doesn't seem to know anything. So she's either going to develop into a heel, as they said, or she's going to, grow and become a little more street smart over the seasons, Yeah. There's just places for everybody to go, which I find...
There absolutely is.
I find cool and different from Firefly in a way.
What I actually suspect from Alison Pill is that she will be a heel turn character, but that she will also be misguided and will have trusted the wrong person, probably Maddox.
Interesting. You think she's...
And will be redeemed by the end.
You think she might be in league with Maddox? That's interesting.
Oh, absolutely. I think she's probably either sees him as a father figure or is in love with him, or maybe both.
See, I'm hearing it. I was thinking it as she's in league with this Federation Romulan upper, whatever it is, Section 31 mirror universe / Tal Shiar, Vaj, whatever.
No, I think she cares too much about... I think she's part of a separate thing altogether.
Interesting. Well, I think we're going to find out next episode. I think we're going to get to Free Cloud next episode. We are getting to Free Cloud next episode based on the trailers, and I think they're going to find Bruce Maddox, and we're going to get some answers.
Yeah. I think the idea is that we're supposed to believe that the Federation / Romulan Secret Alliance caused the Synths to do something or to kill all those people as an excuse, but I think this was all something else from Maddox. Or perhaps an action of lore that was supposed to be, or that sent Bruce Maddox into hiding, and now Maddox is kind of operating behind the scenes with Girardi as his liaison to the real world.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Absolutely could be. And it could be that, it could be that she's operating for Maddox or for the Federation people, and she just doesn't trust Picard yet. She seems to, but maybe she just, is playing that role so that he'll trust her. And then as she sees him do good action after good action, she's going to learn to trust him and finally come down on his side, which I think would be fun. Because even though they may not need a cybernetics expert next season, they may need an Allison Pill.
Why would we all do?
We all do.
I mean,
we all do.
We all do. We all do, baby.
Any other feedback?
We don't have any more feedback.
Cool. Well, guys, thank you for writing in. That's awesome. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Keep it up. Let us know what you guys think about these next couple episodes, and we're going to be back very soon with another episode. I have a song for this week written, but have not had a free day to record it yet. So I'm hoping that by tomorrow night I'm actually going to have the song recorded. So it's a little later. Last couple weeks I've been able to drop the songs on all the places about 24 hours after the episode drop, which has been fun. But this week wasn't possible. So I'll get that song to you guys on the Matthew Carroll podcast and on YouTube probably tomorrow, and then Wednesday I'll probably drop it in the feed here before we record our episode Wednesday night, because these are going to be a bunch of episodes real close together of this podcast because this one's coming out so late. So I was hoping I could get the song recorded today and have it ready for this podcast, but I did not.
Oh, it's all right, man. It's all right.
Couldn't get it done.
We've all got stuff.
Yeah, indeed. Well, guys, we love you. Julon True.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. Send your feedback to StarTrekUcast@gmail.com or find us on all the social medias. Just search for the Star Trek Universe Podcast. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.